What's up, Rapids fans? And on this week's edition of The Rundown presented by Dick's Sporting Goods, the Rapids get toppled by the Timbers over the weekend. And in this upcoming weekend, Charlotte makes their way to Mile High, and defender Reggie Cannon joins us for Off the Pitch. That and more on the Colorado Rapids podcast. Welcome, everybody, to the Colorado Rapids podcast presented by Dick's Sporting Goods. I am your host, Mike Ravolo, alongside my good friend, my brother, Drew Moor. Drew, how we doing, brother?
I'm
good
doing
to see
all
you as
right.
always here on the podcast. It's always nice to join you every week to kind of talk rap. That's what I love to do, with you, man. Just talk Rapids. Just talk Rapids. It's the greatest.
It's the best. I'd look forward to it every weekend, especially on Sunday evening. It's like Monday morning. I get to hang out with mi hermano.
Just lying
Michael
through your
Rebolo.
teeth there. No, I'm just kidding.
And I'm feeling better than most people might think after a difficult weekend for the Rapids. It's still early in the season, but I feel good. I'm ready to rock this week.
We're gonna touch base on that game. We're gonna kind of have to acknowledge kind of what happened, to look back and see kind of maybe where mistakes can kind of be corrected, especially looking up ahead to a difficult match this upcoming week at Dick's Sporting Goods Park. But before we do, you're looking good, brother.
Oh,
you're looking
you.
good with the hoodie.
Thank you.
So what Drew B, for those of you who are watching on YouTube at the moment, if you're able to see, Drew and myself have a couple pieces part of the Headwaters capsule collection this should be out now at this point, whether you want to buy it at the team store, online on Altitude Authentics. The gear is dope, as you can see. So I have a raincoat here that just kind of like you throw over. I'm really loving it, especially with like the kind of retro sort of crest that we have on the Headwaters kit. So playing off the Headwaters kit that we released this year with the green design or the crest or whatnot, it looks really nice. And then if I can unfurl this coherently and quickly, a scarf, which is, again, this is just one of many pieces of part of this capsule collection that we have. So for those of you on YouTube who can see this, you can acknowledge that it's dope. It's awesome. This is a huch thanks to our creative director, Jordan Rothrock,
Shout out to Jordan Rothrock.
Him and the crew here at the club who come together to work on this sort of gear is awesome. It's dope. I love it. It's just really nice to wear like on a day like today or just like any other day in the office or out and about doing errands, whatever it may be. The gear is dope. And the fans, I'd assume that you guys would find the same way. So whether you come to the stadium here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park to buy this gear at the team store on a game day, or go on Altitude Authentics, wherever you want to get this gear from, I highly recommend you get it because it looks dope.
And if you have a clothing line and you want to make it look good, put it on Mike Ravolo, and I promise you, people will want to buy it. So
I'm still waiting on a call from Banana Republic and other folks, but we'll see. I'm sure those calls will come around.
I'm surprised.
I'm very optimistic on this, but we'll see what happens.
You should be.
We'll see. So go guys. The gear is up again. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, you guys can see it. If you're just listening, take a second to kind of tune in and see some of the options that you have for some of this gear. This is just a little bit what Drew and I are wearing in the scarf here. Just a couple pieces that we have available of the entire collection available based off the Headwaters kit that we released this year.
So check it out.
So after covering that, Drew, I would say let's get into now to look back at the match that we had up against the Timbers this weekend here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park. And of course, the match didn't go ideally, I think, in the way that we would have wanted or hoped as the Rapids. But off to a good start. So if you look here, Georgi Mihailovic right off the jump with a fantastic ball across to Kevin, is getting started early on for the Rapids.
Couple transition moments early that we just missed on. Kevin Cabral maybe just hesitated on that one, or else he puts that in the back of the net.
And then here, Keegan Rosenberry tracking back really, really well after a good ball in behind from Portland, making the defensive play there to stop the shot on goal.
Showing his experience.
Yep, absolutely. And then this is where Portland found the momentum. They opened the scoring.
Tough time to give up the first goal right before halftime, and Josh Atencio, unlucky, but just doesn't quite sort his feet out there. And then the backbreaker, right, coming right out of halftime. Anthony, who's kind of been the Rapids' boogeyman a little bit, just doing what he does in transition.
Despite those moments, those two goals that Adam Beaudry had received up to that point, he had a couple saves in the match, Drew.
Big saves. And these are huge for Adam Beaudry. And I know he's probably going to be disappointed overall because we concede 3, but these 2 saves kept us in the match up to that point and will do a lot for his confidence and the confidence in the team around him as well next time he's in goal.
Of course, the homegrown getting his first start at home, his first MLS start coming last year at Austin towards the end of the season. And then this was the one that sealed the deal, Drew.
It did. It sealed the deal, and it really kind of made it an even more painful night than it had already been up to that point. Another goal conceded in transition. We're gonna get into the match a little bit more, but Portland just kind of came in and did what Portland is capable of doing, and they showed it on that final goal.
Definitely did. Final score 3-0 in favor of the Portland Timbers. A bit of a shock, especially doing so here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, a place that the Rapids feel very comfortable, can usually earn results, wins more than anything. So definitely a shock to the system with that result. So the Rapids, in terms of statistics here, the Rapids had 10 shots versus Portland's 11. 2 shots on goal for the Rapids versus 5 on goal for the Timbers. 6 corners for the Colorado Rapids, 3 for the Portland Timbers. Possession, the Rapids saw a little less this time around, at 47.8% versus 52.2% for the Portland Timbers on the night. So, as we mentioned, Drew, this was a match that's obviously a shock to the system. This is not something we really would expect to happen for a Colorado Rapids side at home at Dick's Sporting Goods Park. That is typically a fortress for this group. So I wanted to get your thoughts on what you made of this match. Like, what happened? What did you see? What was this group missing that led to this 3-0 result against the Portland Timbers?
There's something about Portland. I don't know what it is, especially when the Rapids play them, and I don't want to let the Rapids performance off the hook, because it was a poor performance, both sides of the ball. It wasn't terrible, it wasn't disastrous. In fact, up until Portland's first goal, we were pretty good. Just a couple opportunities in transition that we missed the pass, we're just missed getting a toe on a cross, offsides a couple times. But there's something about Portland that is tricky for other teams in the way they're a bit hit or miss, right? They ride their form, and even within this game, Portland were a bit hit or miss, But ultimately in transition, Anthony gets the backbreaking goal coming out of the second half when on a night where he did some things with his pace and his shiftiness, and then Kelsey, who had only been on the field for about 50 seconds before the third goal, put the game completely out of reach. And so, again, it's Portland in transition that hurt us. And so we didn't deal well enough with crucial moments, right, in defending, whether we were stretched out, whether we, allowed a player to get the best of us in 1v1 situations. Just wasn't good enough in transitional defense. And really, I'll say that going the other way, we just missed on a couple opportunities, especially in the first half, where we had an opportunity to take a 1-goal lead, which would be massive here at home. We've shown, when we do take the lead, that we can take all 3 points. So there's something about Portland right now that, when the Rapids play them, you don't really know what you're going to get. And it needs to be sorted for sure. It needs to be looked at, because Charlotte, I know we're going to get to them, is a team that plays similar to Portland. And so it's not back to the drawing board. This is still MLS. You never know what can happen. But a good, long, hard look needs to be this game needs to be evaluated here in the next couple of days leading into the Charlotte match.
Yeah, and I think the players, coaching staff, everybody felt that they can take accountability and aren't too. It's strange to say that they're not feeling too down on a 3-0 loss, especially at home. It's very strange to say, but if you look at the context and in terms of how this game played out, right, I think it just came down to moments, Drew. This is a Portland team that where we saw throughout this match against the Rapids that kind of Jekyll and Hyde. You have those moments where they're clinical and they're just deadly on the transition. Other moments where they're just kind of hanging on and trying to see what they can get out of the match in some moments. So, They have moments like that where they're scoring the goals. Other moments where they're at home against a Vancouver to start the year and they get run off the park, right? So this is a Portland side where in moments they can find those, they can be clinical and end up with a 3-0 result against someone like the Rapids and in their own house. But that's what it comes down to, Drew.
It doesn't. This hasn't happened very often in the Chris Armas era. It's happened a couple times against Portland now, right? But how often do you see teams come in here and walk away with multiple goal victories at Dick's Sporting Goods Park? Has it happened since Chris Armas has taken over? I'm not sure it has, and so it'll be interesting to see how they respond this week. And Georgie kind of took the lead in the locker room after the match and said, "Hey, we were undefeated coming into this match, but tonight was not good enough." And it wasn't, everybody was pissed and disappointed, but it wasn't, throwing chairs and what's going on. It was let's make sure we're taking stock of our personal performance and making sure we're holding ourselves and each other accountable. This should be a little bit of a wake-up call. Don't be super down on yourself, but this wasn't good enough tonight.
Yeah. Kind of weird feeling coming out of that match. Like I mentioned, that the guys, the players and the staff, coaching staff, not too downtrodden on what was a 3-0 loss, which is kind of strange to say, but just because of how this match played out Reggie postgame, we're going to have him for off the pitch in just a bit here, but he mentioned postgame in his media availability saying that, like, I thought we were going to win 7-0 with the way that first half went, right? But then it literally just came down to the one moment at one of the worst times towards the end of the first half that Portland gets that moment off an own goal. That gives them the break, and then they shortly coming out of the locker room for the second half, they get the second goal. So Portland, in moments that were enough to kind of break the Rapids and kind of put them in a difficult spot and set them up for the third goal in the end. So, but in the end, I think, as you mentioned, that the players and the coaching staff will be able to look back at this, acknowledge what was kind of done wrong, where they need to improve. But they're not worried. They're not too downtrodden or worried about how this all played out, knowing they can fix a lot of this stuff. It's more incumbent on the Rapids as opposed to anything Portland did really, overall in that match. So in terms of the record for the Colorado Rapids, home versus on the road. So at home, they're 2-0-1 on the, or excuse me, let's start with on the road here. So 2-0-1 on the road with only one goal allowed, versus at home they're 0-1-1. So still waiting for that first victory here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park with 6 goals allowed. So is there anything to kind of take stock from that, the home record versus the away record that you see, Drew, is there anything the Rapids do differently on the road versus at home that kind of attributes to a record like that?
I still think it's early to say. The one thing that trend that we have to keep an eye on is our team's going to still come in here and sit a bit deeper and make the Rapids come at them and really break them down and then try to hit you on the break, because that kind of seemed to be what FC Dallas wanted to do several weeks ago on during the home opener, and they were pretty lethal in transition with Petar Musa and Lucho Acosta, right? And then Portland comes in, and I wouldn't say they sat deep. I thought they were more in a mid block, and it was a bit more of an open game, but they were lethal in transition. And so this is something the Rapids need to keep an eye on. Teams coming in here and sitting deep. Armis of course was aware that could be a real possibility, and we just we weren't clinical enough in the final third, and so that's a trend to keep an eye on. It's great to have a good road record. You have you want to do well, you want to have a deep run in the playoffs, you're going to have to go on the road, and so having confidence to be able to go and pick up wins on the road is big, but home has to be a fortress.
I think the most encouraging thing is, again, we had mentioned this, that I think there are things that could be corrected and mistakes that could be corrected on the Rapids end. In terms of how these games can go for the Rapids, it's more incumbent on them as opposed to anything they're not doing or anything the other team might be doing more often than not. As Chris Armis has mentioned before in multiple instances, that this is a team that likes to take it to the other team, regardless of the venue, whether they're here at home at Dick's Sporting Goods Park or if you go to a difficult place like a San Jose and Austin, wherever you go, they're going to take the match to the other team and put them on the back foot and force the game to be on the Rapids' terms. So I think that's the most encouraging thing that you could take, which is, again, it sounds strange when you say it's encouraging to take certain things from a 3-0 loss, especially at home. But this is a side that has shown that they're resilient. They can bounce back, especially against, from results like this. We have the sample size from last year to pull from, right? This year, it's going to take a little time, especially on the offensive side of things. That's where things can take time always in terms of finding your rhythm, finding your groove. Once the goals start kind of flying in, as we know we can do, but it's just going to take a little time. But I think the Rapids right now are in a good spot. Just to contextualize things, Chris had mentioned in the post-game press conference. So this is a team that was undefeated, including even in preseason, up until this point.
Yep.
Let that speak for itself, right? In terms of showing resilience on the back line, but then showing their prowess on the front line when they're going up against the San Jose in PayPal Park, or if earning these results and scoring goals on the road and at home as well. So I'm not terribly worried with the Rapids in terms of, yes, the 3-0 loss is not great, but there's definitely things that they know they can improve, and if they fix that, they'll be all right. They'll be all right going down the road.
Absolutely.
So despite the result not going in the Rapids' favor, I think the one really, really big positive was seeing Adam Beaudry make his first home start here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, in front of his friends, his family, other folks. It's always nice to see a homegrown show up, especially make their first appearance here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, for a club that they've known for many years now, stretching back from his academy days up till now, to reach this moment to earn his first home start, and do so in front of everybody that he knows and loves, and who are able to go watch and support him on his first MLS start. So what did you make of Adam's performance on the night?
I thought Adam did well. We saw on the highlights, and if you couldn't see the highlights, go watch the highlights. He made a couple very good saves. Showed his capabilities off his line quick on one of them to smother a chance. First goal, unlucky. There's not a whole lot he could have done about it, and really I'll say the same about the third goal that put the game away. It's maybe the second goal is the one that he'll want to have back. A shot from distance by Anthony that I think Anthony shot it quicker than anybody probably realized. I was expecting one more touch from him. But Adam, he's a confident kid. He's a humble kid. I think this is a good experience. It's a good learning experience. But also he's humble and he'll come back tomorrow morning hungry and ready to take on the day like he always does. He's learning under a wonderful person and goalkeeper in Zach Steffen. He has great experience with the youth national teams. Adam Beaudry still has an extremely bright future, and despite the result, this was a positive performance and something that he can certainly grow from.
Absolutely. It's funny sometimes when you're having to plug in somebody else at goalkeeper, especially a position that's so vital on the pitch, and especially in the context of the Rapids, right? When it's someone like Zach Steffen who's typically in there, but he's away on national team duty for Nations League. In most teams, you would think that it's like, okay, let's see what we can do and how we can kind of manage the situation. For me, at least, and I think for the coaching staff and the players, it didn't feel like that. Yeah. Yes, you do lose something when you don't have Zach Steffen in there, but the fact that you can plug in someone like an 18-year-old, a very confident, calm, composed 18-year-old, and Adam Beaudry, who has the experience that he does with the youth national teams, who's just has learned under the likes of Zach Steffen, William Yarbrough, and years past when he was here. And, of course, stretching back to his academy days with Chris Sharp, our goalkeeping coach here at the Rapids. It didn't feel like it was something a situation that the club was trying to manage. It just felt like, okay, we can just plug in Adam, and we feel very confident with the fact that we can just put him in there and he'll do his thing, which speaking, the way that you spoke about his performance, and it was there for everybody to see as well. It didn't really feel like there was any panic or any sort of concern with Adam having to step in for Zach. Adam just showed his quality, I think. And again, he's 18 years old, will be 19 at some point this year. But the fact that he put in the performance that he did, being as young as he is, and especially as for a goalkeeper, I think says a lot about Adam.
It does. He demands a lot from himself. He is his own harshest critic, and he has the confidence of every player in that locker room because of how long he's been around, because of the way he commands his box, because of the way he communicates with players, how mature he is for still just 18. I think he turns 19 soon, but anytime Adam is in net, nobody on the field thinks twice about who's back there. If it's Adam Beaudry, it's business as usual.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? It was Reggie post game in his immediate availability post game after the match against the Timbers, where he mentioned that he was a bit surprised with like how kind of verbal and how vocal Adam was, but he's like, I love it. I love when my goalkeeper's talking to me all the time and telling me this, and he wants to do that. He's like, I absolutely love it when he's as vocal as he was. But which is it's interesting to see, because I remember seeing those days when Adam would kind of come into the first team and help maybe provide numbers for training or whatnot, or once he was a bit more involved with the first team, kind of like finding his spot, maybe, or finding his place, not as vocal. And then I remember, and then going into last season and preseason when we were in Mexico, seeing how vocal and how much more confident the way he carries himself. To see that growth from Adam, at least from my own eyes and what I've been able to see, has been tremendous. Has been awesome to see. So in terms of how he performed on Saturday, really doesn't come as a surprise for those of us who get to see him fairly consistently. And this is just him getting started with his career, which is really, really exciting. I think the sky is the limit with Adam, just considering how he carries himself, how calm and composed and mentally stable he is in terms of how he goes about his business. The sky is the limit for Adam, I think.
Absolutely.
So very exciting to see of what is hopefully a very long career that's just getting started for Adam. So that'll do it in terms of us looking back at what was this match against the Timbers over the weekend, Drew. Kind of one where you look back, evaluate, but then toss it in the bin, forget it as quickly as you can once you get what you need out of it. And then we'll obviously have to look ahead to Charlotte, which is going to be a very, very tough match for the Rapids this upcoming weekend. But before we do that, as a friendly reminder for everybody that if you haven't already, download the Colorado Rapids app. It is your one-stop shop for absolutely everything to do with the Colorado Rapids. If you're looking for news, videos, highlights, anything that you need, especially with the match day experience, I'll tell you what, if you're looking for a certain type of food item at a certain kiosk, if you want to find out where the team stores are, throughout the stadium, tickets, having those available so that you scan them in and you get right in through to the stadium and to Dick's Sporting Goods Park, it's your one-stop shop for everything in terms of what you need to know and everything that you need for the match day experience for the Colorado Rapids. So make sure you download the Colorado Rapids app.
We're tired of telling you about the app. We're going to keep telling you about it, but we're tired of telling you about it.
But listen, it's a friendly reminder, because I'll tell you, Drew, I'll tell you what, it's very handy. It is very, very handy. Like, in terms of if I'm looking for a certain food that I want, like on a match day.
The Polish sausage. I don't know if you saw.
You stuffed your face the other day with that.
I stuffed my face with the Polish sausage, and it was really good. You can find that on the app.
Yep. That and so much more.
There was peppers on it. It was a nice, big hoagie roll,
Okay, so I'm going to stop Drew there before he goes on a tangent about food in general.
Yeah, I can still taste it.
But a friendly reminder so that you can find the Polish sausage roll or anything else that you need from a match day experience or just anything to do with the Colorado Rapids. Download the app, which is free. Download the app today. All right, and we have Off the Pitch this week with defender Reggie Cannon. Reggie, welcome, man. Glad to have you here on Off the Pitch.
Yeah, thank you, man. Excited to be here again after a lustrous, amazing last podcast. Always excited to make it a returning appearance.
It came at your expense. We'll get into that a little bit, but it was a fun pod with you nonetheless. Just to get started in terms of March Madness, Reggie, before we're going to get into nitty-gritty of the football here, have you made a bracket, and has it collapsed already?
So I didn't make a bracket. Georgie and I had discussed doing a joint one, but I definitely decided to leave him on his own because after seeing how the first game went not his way, I'm really happy I didn't fill out a bracket now. But I can't remember who's in the lead on the team. I think it might be Hayden, but no, Ian's up there too. But yeah, Georgie kind of crumbled, and I don't know much about basketball, so I'm kind of glad I didn't.
Smart to leave Georgie on his own.
Yeah, that was definitely the right decision.
All right, Reggie. So in terms of the football itself, let's get into that now. So as it pertains to this season, we're 7 matches in, 5 in MLS. What have you made the team so far with the progress they've made? Having started the season earlier compared to most with CCC, playing LAFC, and then having to go straight into the MLS season.
Yeah, it was obviously a quick turnaround from the Champions League, and I think guys, kind of felt it, with, we had a bunch of injuries, and I think there were a lot of things going on with the team. But honestly, we've started in such a good way. Obviously, we're disappointed last weekend not to get the win against Portland. But, going undefeated in the first 4 games, there's so many big pieces that the club has brought in to kind of gel together and mesh together. And I think it's all going to come together at the right time. We have such a quality in attack with Georgie, Rafa, Kevin, all the guys up there that just make the difference. And now we have such a robust midfield with a lot of depth options. And now I think the back line is becoming really solid. Keegan being the Superman that he is, Shido, the Ian, all these guys we brought in, Max. I think the team's looking like a solid group right now. The vibe in the locker room's great. And I think we're really looking to get that consistency down. We were really happy to start the season the right way, but to keep it going is obviously the tough part once it's all the excitement is kind of, dwindled down and stuff. So I think honestly the club's headed in the right direction, the group's headed in the right direction, and it's going to be an interesting weekend.
Reggie, you talked about some key pieces, and you're one of those key pieces, albeit you came in the middle of last season, but you spent some time growing up in the Dallas area. I spent some time growing up in the Dallas area. I fell in love with Denver when I first got here. So tell me, how is life in Denver for you, and how do you feel like your role has evolved within the squad since you came here last season?
Yeah, I mean, it felt like it's flown by. The club has been so welcoming. The guys have been so welcoming in the locker room, and now I feel like a solidified part of this group. I feel like everyone's together in everything that they do. And as much as you said, like I've fallen in love with Denver already. It's such a stark contrast from Dallas, as you know, and like, my family loves it here. I love it here. It's just a perfect environment to be able to thrive. So I can't thank the club enough for bringing me here, because it's such an amazing opportunity. And I'm loving everyone, the guys, the football that we play, the coach, the staff, everyone. So like I said, like I'm really excited to be here, and I kind of felt my role has started to become one of a leader on and off the pitch. And as someone who I think guys look up to. There's always people on the team. We all look up to Keegan as the leader. We all look up to Zach to make those big saves. We all look up to Shido to win those balls in the box. And I think there's so many great pieces that the club has brought together. So it's gonna take a little bit more, but I think we're all headed in the right direction.
Absolutely. Let's keep talking about those key pieces as well, because Chiro Awaziem, Ian Murphy comes in. Obviously, Andreas Maxu comes back. Keegan Rosenberry, Sam Vines, right? How do you think that back line is meshing? You're a huge part of it. You're well integrated into the group now. How do you feel like it's meshed here through the first little bit of the season?
Yeah, no, I think Chris talked about his goals for the back line this year, and it's been kind of an unfortunate situation, because when our back line is on, sometimes our attack isn't on, and when our attack is on, sometimes our back line isn't on. And I think that's one thing we're trying to work on, is just getting it all to come together at the right time. And there are so many key pieces, and there's so much depth to compete for spots, and that's making us just more competitive in and out the locker room. So I think there's such a good team. There's a lot of good players there, and I think it just motivates us to be the best we can be week in, week out. I mean, to keep that position, to keep playing, and it's something that you have to be mentally tuned into. So I'm really excited for how the back line is shaped up so far, and I think there's a lot more to come.
So we'll put the football off to the side here, because, well, of course, we have the upcoming match against Charlotte here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, but that's not the only thing we got going on, Reggie. We got Bark in the Park going on, so we got fans coming in with their dogs. Yeah. All the good boys, all the good girls coming in with their dogs to tune into the match. Do you have any dogs, any pets of yourself?
Yes, I have two dogs. I have a big Australian Shepherd, and then we have a really, really tiny Cavapoo. And let me tell you, the Cavapoo, his name's Kobe, the biggest troublemaker ever. Dude, like the day of the game, it was against Portland. I come outside, and I know this is gross, but there's a squirrel carcass he's gnawing on. And dude, I was so angry. Like, I come outside, and he's just like, he's treating it like his little toy. I'm like, Kobe, get your butt inside right now. Because I'm like, it looks like a coyote like came through and left the remains, and he took it as, oh, it's now mine. And so I had to go back there with gloves, and dude, it was disgusting. My mind was rattled before the Portland game. I came in, I was like, dude, I've seen things you guys do not want to see. Like, I was shocked. But anyway, I love them. I love both of them to death. But just having dogs is always an adventure, dude. It's you never know what you're gonna find ever. Oh my gosh.
Little dogs with big personalities is my favorite. I've got a couple little French bulldogs, and they think they're 150 pounds.
Literally.
Mm-hmm. But real quick, Reggie, I have to leave you with this. After you were on the podcast last season and you hyped up Minecraft, right?
Yeah.
Which is it the greatest video game all time, at least in your opinion?
Yeah, it's up there. It's up there.
Well, my 8-year-old was super into Minecraft around that time, and I started playing with them, and I didn't know, I'm not a big gamer. And so to hear you just absolutely like go crazy about Minecraft, like really made me feel good about what I've been doing on my Xbox. So thank you for that.
No, of course, don't feel bad, because my friend and I are playing again tonight, so you don't have to feel bad about that at all.
Well, then me and my 8-year-old will as well.
I love it.
Real quick, Reggie, I'm going to follow up on that. This is more a selfish question, because I love gaming myself. Is there a game outside of Minecraft that you seem to consistently play that you've gotten into or you're looking to get into?
So there is a game I'm looking to get into. I've shown my wife so many clips about it. It's this new game called Repo. It's all over social media right now, and it looks like the funniest thing. It's kind of like a horror game, but you're playing it with your friends. And there's so many items, like they mess with your voice, and like there's voice chat. You can't mute your mic, so like the enemies are kind of blind, but they go straight off noise. So if you're talking, communicating, they'll try and obviously get you. It looks like one of the best experiences ever, to be honest. And then one thing I started playing with Georgie, I didn't tell you guys this, was in Mexico, we started playing this pirate game called Sea of Thieves. And it was honestly such an amazing experience, dude. And it's got proximity chat. So like you got guys like getting mad at you, you're boarding their ships, you're shooting cannons. Oh, it's amazing, dude. I love it. I love it.
Sea of Thieves, Repo, I need to read up on that a
Yeah.
little bit more and see what that's about. Sea of Thieves, I've been playing that quite a bit with some friends like all over the place.
Oh,
And
it's so fun.
I will say a lot of them have gotten on my case. To be fair, there was one time there were four of us, I think, sailing on a ship,
Yeah.
accidentally dropped the anchor as another crew was raiding us and
Oh,
taking our stuff
no.
and attacking us.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have not let me live that down ever since. So and
Worst
as you can
mistake to
imagine,
drop the anchor. I know. I get it.
I panicked. I panicked in a clutch moment, and they haven't let me live it down since. So,
Oh, God.
listen, Reggie, we appreciate you, man, to be able to take the time here after the weekend to be able to catch up with us and talk to us, and for the viewers and listeners to be able to listen to you as well. So appreciate the time, Reggie. Always love having you on, and looking forward to the next time we have you on.
Of course. Thank you guys so much.
All right, Jerby, let's go around MLS and U.S. soccer in this instance, since we want to obviously touch base on the Nations League as it pertains to Zach Steffen, right? So, unfortunately, that he wasn't really involved with the U.S. men's national team this time around in Nations League. The first time around being maybe just what the coaching staff decided, what they wanted to do, the direction they wanted to go to with goalkeeper. And then the second match, it was reported, at least they had mentioned in the broadcast previous to the match, that it was with illness. So just Zach was unavailable overall for that second match. So in the first match in the semifinal, that the U.S. men's national team lost 1-0 with a goal at the very end from Panama on Thursday. And then over the weekend when they played Canada for the third place match, that was a 2-1 loss to Canada, where we saw our old friend, the master of the basics, Moise Bombito, who started both matches, played both matches, and was man of the match in the Thursday match where they lost to Mexico in their semifinal. And overall, Drew, what did you make of the U.S. performances on the weekend in Nations League?
Well, I don't think they were very good performances. You lose to both Panama and then Canada in the third place match. I would have loved to have seen Zach Steffen in there on Thursday night against Panama. I think he makes that save and we at least go to overtime. But I just think this is a difficult U.S. team right now. I feel like to evaluate kind of. It's Pochettino hasn't been in charge for very long, but I think it would be great if, and I don't know like what the plan is, what the direction is. This is just somebody that watches the U.S. men's national team feels is just like let's kind of get back to focusing on beating teams in our region, right, in CONCACAF, because if we want to have World Cup aspirations and winning major tournament aspirations and stuff. We're not there yet. We're not there right now. As good as this team is, and I know we've won some Nations Leagues and some Gold Cups, and we still advanced from our group in the last World Cup in a difficult group. But I think if you focus on beating Canada and Mexico and Panama and Costa Rica and El Salvador and Jamaica, then you can create some character and a strong mentality and some mettle and stuff that can translate well to these major tournaments when you do come up against the Netherlands in the round of 16 of a World Cup and stuff. And so it sounds basic from me, but I just feel like let's pump the brakes a little bit and get back to kind of taking care of business within CONCACAF. Like I almost feel like we're are we a little lucky that we automatically qualify for the next World Cup? I feel like maybe we are right now. CONCACAF qualifying is very difficult.
It seems like there's a bit of work to do, and
Yeah.
crazy to think now that it's only a little over a year till the World Cup is here, back stateside.
Mm-hmm.
The last time being in 1994, the year I was born, which is wild to think.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're a young buck.
I was a very young buck. I remember my dad always tells me this story when I was only 3 months old and just kind of ditched me off to kind of have somebody babysit so that he could watch. It was Mexico, Italy, I believe, in RFK Stadium. With my folks being from the DC area.
Yeah.
So my dad getting to say that he went to a World Cup match is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I don't blame him for just kind of ditching me and just kind of
me
go for a match 90 minutes for a World Cup. It's not a small thing. So
I would have done the same thing.
And so we're going to take it back to MLS this time around, Drew. With St. Louis. So they were in Philadelphia this weekend. They lost 1-0. Up against their old coach, Bradley Cardinal, who is the new head coach for the Philadelphia Union. So St. Louis, who we have seen, the Rapids have seen from the get-go, was their season opener. It was a 0-0 result that they got at Energizer Park in St. Louis. The St. Louis, they've scored just 4 goals this season. And as of now, Drew, it feels like this is a team that they're going to try to gut out these very tight 1-0, 1-1, maybe 2-1 results. But it feels like it's going to be very cagey from them so far, with maybe trying to figure things out as they go, especially under new head coach and Olaf Melberg.
Yeah, it's a new head coach, and they're an intriguing team. I feel like St. Louis has been intriguing since they came into the league, right? Like a house on fire. In their first season was at just a couple seasons ago, 2023, right? And Melberg is a coach that he was a center back when he was playing. And so you figure they're going to be organized defensively, and they've shown that they are, right? This is the first goal that they conceded all year. And then they have good players going the other way, the Hartels, the Leuvens, the Joao Klauses, the Betchers, So, and that's just to name a couple. So they'll be an interesting team to watch. They can score goals, but they seem to be organized defensively, and they're going to be difficult to break down. They still have kind of the newness of just being a couple years into the league. So an intriguing team to keep an eye on for sure. For
sure. And at least one more time that the Rapids will be running into them, but this time around it will be at home.
Yep.
And of course, we'll keep everybody up to date with how that match could potentially play out once we have that matchup coming up more near when it's near closer to the calendar. And then finally, Drew, with San Diego, brand new team that had definitely left an impression on everybody so far with their impressive start, considering how difficult it can be as an expansion team to leave your mark in any way, to get results in any way. But this is a San Diego side that really has started off well, despite getting this losing 2-1 on the road this past weekend against Austin FC. They gave up 2 goals in transition. This is an Austin side that I would imagine maybe wants to play more possession-based, so it's kind of interesting that they give up the goals in that way. Austin only had 31% of the possession, but as we mentioned, that they countered well. So San Diego, what's the impression they've left on you so far, Juby?
It's funny, man. MLS it's so much fun. You never know what you're gonna get, right? And San Diego, they're a good side, and I still think this start to the season is not lucky. It's not beginner's luck or whatever. I think they're going to be a good side, but you just you're not. Don't go from them being undefeated to losing one game to now they're ordinary. Because look at San Jose. They started off with 2 wins and now they've lost several games. Austin seemed to be struggling a little bit, and now here in this game could have been a lot worse. It could have been 4 or 5-1. I feel like, and so MLS is just a fun league, and you never know what's going to happen. San Diego, I still think they're a good side, and they'll be a fun team to keep an eye on as well.
For sure. It's always nice to kind of keep tabs on like the expansion teams, see how they do. Typically, as we've mentioned, history isn't really kind to expansion teams, but you look at it, Atlanta United, LAFC, I think, as the major exceptions to that, where they just hit the ground running as soon as they came into the league. San Diego, I think, not to that level, but I think finding their way right now in the league, and I would imagine that they're looking at this like, I think we can make the playoffs at some point. If they do that, I think they can consider that a good season, a good inaugural season for them in MLS. So that'll do it for around MLS, and then U.S. soccer this time around with Zach being at Nations League for that segment. But let's really get into it now, Drew, with looking ahead to the upcoming weekend, what is going to be the second home match in a row for the Rapids. Their opponent this time around is going to be Charlotte FC. And so that match is going to be, like I mentioned, here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, Saturday, March 29th at 2:30 p.m. Mountain Time. Afternoon kick.
A matinee.
Oh, I love it. I love a good afternoon kick. And like I mentioned, here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, and if you guys, for whatever reason, can't make it to the match, you can always watch it on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV. A special note with this match as well, that we got Bark in the park. I saw you waiting to like bark or do something, Drew. It looked like you were ready to. It looked like you were ready to pounce on the opportunity. Well, there it is now. Yeah, there you go. So that's a special note that we have bark at the park. So bring the dogs out to the stadium, but just keep in mind that there's special tickets to be able to do that. So hopefully you guys aren't just buying tickets, bringing your dogs and assuming that they're going to get in. There are special tickets to be able to do that. So just be mindful of that. If you want to bring your dog to the park, to Dick's Sporting Goods Park, for this match against Charlotte on March 29th, Saturday, March 29th, make sure you get the special tickets that allow you to do so that way you're not getting turned away at the gate with bringing your dogs if you just have a regular ticket. That would
Your
be
dog
very
will not be
unfortunate.
happy.
They will.
You promised me a Rapids game, and now we're going home.
You don't. Yeah,
Get
more
your
than
dog
more than
tickets.
anything, don't want to disappoint the dogs.
No.
But yeah, just again, keep in mind that there's special tickets to be able to bring your dogs in to Dick's Sporting Goods Park for that match against Charlotte FC. So just one little note there. So in terms of the match itself, Drew, so we're looking at a Charlotte FC right now in their last 3 matches that they had a 1-0 loss at Miami, 2-0 win versus Cincinnati, and they just ran San Jose off the park this past weekend with a 4-1 win. Center back Andrew Privet, he got a red card later in the match on the 74th minute, so he will be unavailable for this upcoming match. Excuse me, goodness me. And and in terms of excuse me, goodness me, I'm stumbling today. This is a
Get him some water.
This is a Monday. This is the most Monday of Mondays for me right now. Team comparison in terms of looking at the records for each club at the moment, Drew. So the Rapids are 2-1-2, where Charlotte is 3-1-1. So fairly similar. Charlotte with another win in there. Not surprising just because of how good this side has looked, Drew.
Oh, yeah.
With points, Rapids right now are 8 points in the Western Conference. Charlotte have 10. Goals, Rapids have scored 6 so far. Charlotte 10 goals this season so far. Goals against, Rapids have 7 against them. Charlotte 4 against them. And then average possession for both sides, Rapids 45.3%, Charlotte at 48.0%, so flat 48%. In terms of where we want to start with the Charlotte FC side, Drew, this is a side that has some real quality in the attacking half of the pitch. You look at, be it Wilfried Zaha, Patrick Agiman, Leo Labada, Kerwin Vargas, if he's coming off the bench or starting, as it was the case this weekend. I mean, there is a list of guys that they have that can present all sorts of problems for any team as it pertains to this group, to the Rapids. It's quite the challenge that they have up against them this weekend.
It sure is. We don't see Charlotte a lot, right? And I actually think since they've come into the league, they've been a little bit of an under-the-radar team, right? I've been very impressed with them. And they're a team that I feel like Dean Smith, when he took over, wants to get the ball down and play and possess a bit. And they can do that. They're capable of that. They showed that in the most recent performance against San Jose. But where they've really come alive so far this season when they score goals is here we go again in transition, right? Which is just the way the game's going right now and the league is going. When you have Patrick Agiman, he's a problem. He showed it with the U.S. men's national team on Sunday, right? Like, he's a handful. He's big, he's strong, he's powerful. He can stretch defenses. Wilfried Zaha, I think I said it a couple weeks ago, if you've been under a rock and don't know who he is, he's been in the Prem for a long time now. Pep Biel, he kind of pulls the strings in the middle of the park and can launch these counterattacks and transitional plays. Rapids are going to have their hands full, and Charlotte reminds me a little bit of a Portland, right? They might sit a bit deep. They can absorb some pressure. They can be organized defensively, and they can be ruthless in transition and in attack. And so it should set up for a very fun match. I'm looking forward to it. Again, Charlotte's a team we don't see a lot. This is a match that should be a lot of fun.
You're saying like we don't see Charlotte a lot because obviously we don't play teams from different conferences don't play each other every year like you would as St. Louis or any of these teams twice during the season, right? But funny enough, like actually because 2022 was Charlotte's first year, right? So 2023 that we traveled there, played them at Bank of America, or sorry, no, actually 2022 they came here. 2022 they came here at one point because I remember, yes, because it was Jossie Zardes. So when he first came to the club, I think he flew in the night before, came off the bench against Charlotte FC in that match. 2023, that traveled there to Bank of America Stadium to get the 2-2 result towards the end, and then did not play them last season, and then we finally run into them. So funny. It's kind of interesting that we've run into them as often as we have ever since they came into the league. And then Charlotte, as you mentioned, Drew, this is a Charlotte side that has so much firepower. Ajiman right now is kind of in the moment right now with, he's found some goal scoring form in the MLS season. He's got his first goal with the U.S. men's national team and showed how much he might be involved in that team going down the road, especially with the Gold Cup coming up this summer, and then all the other pieces around him, Wilfried Zaha on the wing, Lil Labat on the wing, Pep Biel just behind pulling the strings. And then if you want to go further back, right, you look at a Tim Ream, if you want to talk about the transition, right, so if they're going to find those moments to just kind of sit and pick their moments every once in a while, if you want to go far back as Tim Ream, who can find a pass in between the lines or launch a ball out wide to Nabata, Zaha, Ajiman, if he wants to be even more direct, right? But this is a side that I think that can hurt you in very, very different ways, and have shown why they are as good as they are, have earned the wins and the results that they've gotten, and are being talked about in the way that they're being talked about this time around.
And they've just brought in a new signing in Suleiman Doumbia, I believe. Miles, is that correct? Left back. So Privet gets red carded last game. No problem. Tim Ream probably comes back into the side, and Doumbia, who looked really, really good in his first minutes down that left side. This is a good side, and it's a good litmus test for the Rapids after a difficult performance at home and a difficult result at home for them to see, can we rebound? Can we bounce back? Take care of what Charlotte does, maybe turn it around on them a little bit, which, I know we're going to get into here. But this is a match that fans should be excited about.
Very much so. I think just in general, whether you're a Rapids fan or Charlotte fan or just a neutral, I think this is going to be a very, very exciting and very interesting match to watch in terms of how this could play out. And as you mentioned earlier, Dean Smith, he is at the helm of the Charlotte side. He was signed as the new head coach towards the end of the 2023 offseason. Ever since he stepped in, Drew, it just feels like he's kind of brought a more clear identity and stability to this side. And again, this is a guy who has Premier League experience as well. He knows what it's like to perform at the top level against some of the top clubs in the world, and found good fortunes with Aston Villa in his time there before he left and moved on from the Premier League and made his way to MLS with Charlotte. So they had recently signed up to a new contract, or contract extension rather, through 2027. It's not surprising that the Charlotte side kind of finds who they are, find their rhythm ever since Dean Smith came in and just kind of set his stamp and kind of establish how this team is going to play.
Yeah.
So the work is cut out for the Rapids, but I think this is probably one of the best matches that you can have if you're a Rapids side who's coming off a loss at home, and this is the best way to prove that you could show up against any team and bounce back and get a result, especially at home and especially in front of the Rapids fans, the Rapids faithful. So it's going to be a very fun and exciting match. We have started something new recently in terms of getting fan questions, right? So it's going to be every Sunday on our Instagram story that we have a poll. You can ask any question that you'd like, fans, Rapids fans, or anybody out there outside of the Rapids fans world, to both Drew or myself. And, it could be talking about them, in this case, we're going to get into it, but it could be about anything. If you're curious about what we thought about the previous match, the upcoming match, if you're curious about Drew's favorite color, I don't know. Ask me anything. Ask us anything, rather. So that is something new that we've implemented. Well, there you go. Well, funny enough, we got you the right color hoodie then. So that is something new that we're implementing into the podcast to have you, the fans, more involved. If there's anything that you guys want to hear from either one of us, in particular, I'd say Drew Moor, our Rapids legend here, feel free to ask away every Sunday after our match on the weekend so that we can have this ready to go on the podcast and hopefully get your question in. So a lot of you, for this first AMA that we had, reached out about how do you bounce back from a result like this, a 3-0 loss at home to the Portland Timbers, and especially when you have such a strong opponent in Charlotte FC coming to town. That's
why you have to bounce back. That's why you bounce back, because there's no resting in Major League Soccer, right? I just talked about it 10 minutes ago. It's such a fun league. You never know what you're going to get. And the Rapids in the locker room were pissed and disappointed with their performance against Portland. And yeah, they're a bunch of professionals, but they take a lot of pride in performing in front of their home fans, right? Chris Armas talks about it all the time. He wants this to be a fortress, and he wants, after every game, for those players and his coaching staff to go and salute the fans that came out to the match, right? And so there's no resting, there's no regretting what happened before. Let's get back to work this week, because we have another opponent that probably right now is in better form than Portland and is playing better than Portland and might have just as many, if not more, dangerous players than Portland. And so rest assured that this team plans on bouncing back and is going to do everything they can in their preparation to make sure that doesn't happen again anywhere, but certainly here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, and that starts on Saturday afternoon against Charlotte.
Charlotte as a whole have shown their quality and shown why they're getting the results that they're getting, but who is one guy from that group, Drew, that you think kind of sticks out and might be the difference maker for this group, for the Charlotte side?
It's tough to choose one guy, but I will, and it's going to be Pep Biel, believe it or not. He came in last summer, and he's the string puller. He's really the number 10 for Charlotte right now, and he's got Wilfried Zaha and Patrick Agiman, who are the other guys I want to highlight around him, along with some of the other players we've talked about. But Biel, he plays forward, man. He's got a nice left foot. He looks forward. He plays forward. He runs forward. He's willing to dribble forward and take you on 1v1 and unbalance you that way. But Pep Biel starts a lot of the attacks, in particular in transition for this Charlotte side. And so I think if you can bottle him up and eliminate him, and not eliminate him, but limit his time and space, in particular when he gets on the ball, don't allow him to look forward too much, then you set yourself up well to keep Zaha and Agiman and Abada and these guys quiet, and Vargas, depending on if he's starting or coming off the bench. They have some good dangerous players, but for me, Pep Biel is the one that the Rapids perhaps need to key in on the most.
On the flip side, on my end, Drew, in terms of a Rapids player I'd like to watch, I'm going to play off what you just said there.
Okay.
If you can shut down Pep Biel, I think for me it's going to come down to someone like Josh Atencio to kind of shut him down, limit the amount of time he has on the ball, or limit his opportunities on the ball. If you shut down the guy who's theoretically pulling the strings, playing the passes, is kind of the brain of the team, if you will, and kind of controlling everything, that's going to limit the amount of time that a Wilfried Zaha, Patrick Agiman, Leo Labada is going to be on the ball. If they're not on the ball, they can't have chances to score on goal. So if Josh is in there to just outrightly shut down Pep Biel and just limit how much he's on the ball during the match, that's going to present a lot of opportunities for the Rapids to just keep the ball and limit, kind of put Charlotte in a position where they're just going to have to defend most of the time and pick moments and be clinical with those moments, and just limit the amount of chances that Charlotte can kind of pull off in terms of looking at at our goal.
And I would say he needs help from whoever else is in there with him, whether it's Cole Bassett, Oliver Larraz, that whole midfield needs to keep an eye on Pep Biel.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just for me, that plays in terms of one of the keys to the match as well that I'll be looking for is just the midfield. The midfield just needs to kind of come as a collective. We know Ollie can do it. He's just a bulldog in there that doesn't let anyone breathe, quite frankly. Josh, who just, like I mentioned, he's going to clean a lot of things up if anything gets past Cole or Ollie and provide cover for the back line so that they're not dealing with everything. It's going to be very incumbent on the midfield altogether. Josh, for me in particular, in terms of just shutting down Pep Biel, not letting him see the ball at all, so that in effect he cannot pull the strings for Wilfried Zaha, Patrick Agiman, or Leo Labada, or anybody else that's on that front line that we know can cause a lot of problems for anybody in this league. So what's another key that you have, Drew, that's going to be important for the Rapids to earn a result against Charlotte?
I think another way you can limit Charlotte from doing what they want on attack is by being better in attack yourself, right? Finish your attacks. Let's simplify. Just finish your attacks, right? Make sure the ball is either lost deep in the opponent's half, or it goes out for a goal kick, or you force the keeper to make a save, or you get a throw in deep, in their half. Just a bit more quality in the final third, right? That'll limit the transitional opportunities, which, I think that was our undoing against Portland. We were really good at finishing our attacks in the first half, right? Crosses coming in. They didn't have a lot of opportunities to run at us going the other way. It undid us in the second half. We weren't finishing our attacks. We were giving Portland short field. You can't do that against Charlotte. So finish your attacks. Make sure you're giving them a long field to come at you.
A tough test, very tough test for the Rapids. But sometimes this is one of those where if you can meet the moment, this can kind of like not make or break a season, but this can be one of those moments that you kind of pin in the season of like, this helped us kind of turn things around a little bit. Sometimes these are the best matches to have, especially coming off this sort of 3-0 loss against the Timbers at home of all places, right? That's tough to deal with. But sometimes you need some of these matches to kind of have the opportunity to just bounce back, earn a result, find your confidence, find your rhythm, and just carry on from there, which we know this Rapid side is very capable of doing. So that match against Charlotte FC is, like I mentioned, is going to be here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park on Saturday, March 29th. 2:30 p.m. Mountain Time kickoff. I love an afternoon kick. I don't mind one bit that we have those. So make sure you get your tickets. Download the Rapids app, as we mentioned, so you have access to all of that to buy your tickets, have your tickets ready to get into the stadium. And if not, of course, you can always go onto MLS Season Pass on Apple TV to catch the match.
Get your dogs tickets too.
Yeah, get your dogs tickets. Make sure if you're going to bring your dogs to the park, make sure you're buying those specific tickets to allow your dogs to get into Dick's Sporting Goods Park, because we don't want to turn you guys away just for buying a regular ticket. Any final thoughts, Drew, before we put our bow on this? I know I have a buddy of mine who lives out in Charlotte. He's a season ticket member for them, and I'm waiting for the text from him to say we're going to get the better of you, and I'd expect that the Rapids kind of prove him wrong.
Is that the kind of smack talk between you two?
It probably goes a little deeper than that, but I don't need to get into that.
I think we're going to get the best of them.
I would like to think so. And
I got you, Mike's friend.
Hi, Dylan. Shout out to Dylan. A very good buddy of mine. But again, this is one of those opportunities for the Rapids to just meet the moment and hopefully turn things around after what was a difficult result against Portland. So, anything else, Truby? If not, that puts a bow on yet another episode of the podcast.
Let's put a bow on it then.
Put a bow on it. All right.
A nice green bow.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially, again, just one more shout out to Jordan Rothrock, our creative director here at the club, in terms of putting this gear together and making it available for you, the fans, to be able to purchase this stuff, because it's dope. I genuinely love some of this gear that we have available to us. So I'm gonna see if I probably cup a little more. I'll ask around, call a favor, shoot a text.
He's gonna take my hoodie, isn't he?
You're not supposed to say that on camera. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Colorado Rapids podcast. Thanks to the production crew, Rich and Miles, Dalen in the background. And, of course, with my good friend here, Drew Moor, I have been your host, Mike Rivola, and we'll see you guys in the next one.